welcome back to the Vanessa Jackson Show, and I am Vanessa Jackson. Today we are discussing a topic that is sweeping the nation: human sex trafficking, child exploitation, and sex slavery. And here in the studio with me today, I have the lovely retired Metro Detective and Chaplain, Tamia Dow, and the wonderful pastor man, Aaron Hansel. And they will be helping me bring knowledge and awareness to this subject. To me and Pastor Aaron, I want to say thank you for being here today on the show for the Vanessa Jackson Show. This weekend, we had a great event with Mayor Carolyn Goodman in regards to human sex trafficking. So she's really behind this, right?
Yes, she's a big supporter of increasing the awareness on human sex trafficking.
Well, great. Well, Tamia, for a listener that is listening today that is not aware of what human sex trafficking is, can you tell us more about this subject?
Yes, sex trafficking occurs when someone obtains or maintains the labor or services of another by using force, fear, or coercion. Basically, simply said, human trafficking is when someone is forced to perform work or sex acts for any reason against their will where someone else is profiting.
Okay, so basically they're being taken against their will via coercion. So, Pastor Aaron, on Saturday when you spoke, you said that you believe that pornography fuels human trafficking. What do you mean by that?
Well, absolutely. I believe that the over-sexualized society that we are in is actually a driving force, particularly in the area of men, that fuels human trafficking. Pornography is so out there, it's so blatant. And it gives an image, and it gives a false reality or a fantasy to men
right.
of what and how women are to act and behave and to look, and it's just not reality. And so pornography actually is a factor, or it fuels men to drive the demand. You know, the demand is so high right now. You know, the supply is so high because the demand is so high, and pornography is a fuel for that demand.
Right. Okay. So, Tamia, when they say human traffickers are hidden in plain sight, how are they hidden in plain sight, and how do we know?
Good question. Human traffickers are living next door to you. They're living in the apartment complex next to you. And how do we know? That's an excellent and a great question to ask. To increase awareness, Metro has a campaign called See Something, Say Something. It's not just Metro, it's international, or should I say national. And basically it means that when you start to see something, signs or symptoms or evidence of criminal activity, you need to let us know. Well, sex trafficking is definitely a criminal activity. How you can recognize some of this is you need to pay attention to the young men and women in your neighborhood. You need to pay attention to how they behave and how they behave around older and other people. Also look at, for people who live in neighborhoods, they can look at their neighbors. This sounds like a strange thing, but look at your neighbor's trash. What I mean by that is if you know it's a single family residence that probably should have the most maybe 6 people, let's say 4 children, 2 adults, okay, and you look at the traffic and it looks like a troop of people live there. You got 12 bags on the curb every trash day, which is twice a week. That's an inordinate amount of trash to be out there. And if you see things such as condoms, or you see high traffic, let's say, for example, it gets dark and there's cars driving in and out and not staying long. You see the windows are darkened. You know there's several people in there that you actually have never seen, or you briefly see maybe outside in the backyard for a little bit. The sad thing about sex trafficking is that often when, like I described to you just now, it's a brothel form. Often when you have one of those home brothels going on, those young victims sometimes never get an opportunity to even leave the room. And when they do, they're let out like a dog, basically, to the backyard for a few minutes, and then they're back put in that room to basically spend the rest of their day servicing people who are visiting the home. Okay. So these are some activities that you, as a observant citizen, would be able to see, and that should spark you to be interested in what's happening in that house.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to know that. So now I'm going to definitely be watching my neighbors because I have grandchildren, children. I definitely want them to be affected or taken or, human sex trafficking. I don't think they'll take me because they'll bring me back. But, but Pastor Aaron, I have a question for you. At the event, you stated that we need to change the dynamic and it starts with the men. Can you elaborate more on that for me?
Oh, absolutely. I've been a pastor in the community for, almost 20 years now. And we have seen, I can't tell you how many men that I've counseled over the years that have had an addiction to pornography. I've worked with many counselors and doctors and psychologists that will say the same thing, that in their practice there is a high number of men that are affected by pornography. They're in there because of maybe their wife or they saved their marriage. It's about time they get some help in this area. But the thing is pornography is a driving force. Now, in the church world, that's kind of where most of my influence is in the church.
But isn't pornography in the church too?
Oh, absolutely. You know what they say right now, and Promise Keepers came out with this statistic as well as Focus on the Family, that 60%, 60% of the men in the church struggle with some sort of sexual addiction and or pornography. Now,
wow.
I have also been emailed statistics that has come from different magazines, national articles that will say even pastors in America are struggling with this issue.
With pornography?
With pornography. Now, the call of my heart, or what the desire of my heart is to ask men to stand with me.
Right.
You know what? It's not a call to perfection. It's a call to purpose, that men are designed to be purpose. We are called to be builders of our homes, builders of families. We are to be leaders in the community. And so the desire of my heart is to call men to stand with me, to stand against pornography, which will impact the demand side of human trafficking. I believe if we're going to put an end to human trafficking, we got to begin in the home. We got to begin by strengthening men. We've got to begin by dealing with the things that we are exposed to. You can't drive anywhere in Las Vegas without getting exposed to some billboard or some magazine
Absolutely.
Or something
Right.
that's going to trigger something in a man.
So it starts with the men.
I believe it starts with the men. And when the men, and I usually say this, that if we can draw a circle on the ground, stand in the middle and say, let it begin with me. That's where it needs to begin, I believe, is like if we're going to see healed families, we're going to see stronger men, it's got to begin somewhere. And I believe if we can start with the men. And that's why we're organizing events. We got some events coming up in the fall. We got some things that we are doing. And that's why I was, like Saturday, I was so grateful for the Mayor's Faith Initiative.
It was a wonderful event. She did very well.
Oh, and the thing that I walked away with was the amazing event that it was the amount of people that showed up.
Great attendance.
Great attendance. And the fact that these organizations came together and these people came together because all the awareness that's going out is really making a difference, And now I think it's time to call to another level. And my desire, again, is to call the men to that place, again, not of perfection, but of purpose, to say we have got a call on our lives to stand for our families, stand for our community, and stand for righteousness.
So we're challenging the men to stand up.
Yes, we are. Okay. We're challenging the men to do that.
Great.
And providing material to do that as well,
Absolutely, because they're going to need material and the guys to go by.
Yeah.
So Tamia, with this industry, can you tell us how does the sex operation of human sex trafficking operate?
Well, there's many levels to it here, and especially in Las Vegas. There's basically there's means by which people can locate. Let's talk about the different avenues. You can walk down the strip. So we have our tourists walking down the strip, and there's a guy standing there right there peddling you. Girl to your room in 20 minutes. Girl to your room in 20 minutes. Okay. You can look in the back of our local free magazines. And there'll be advertisements in there. Or you can do what everybody else does. If they're searching for Las Vegas and they check out Craigslist back page, there's advertisements on there. There's advertisements on Facebook of our children on Facebook offering themselves for sale. So how does it work? Basically, there is a new trend with our youth that they are doing what they call being independent. So they're going out on what the term the kids use is on the blade. They're going out and they're selling themselves basically. And what they do is they say they're independent, meaning that they're free of a pimp. No one is controlling them. Yet oftentimes you find this to be somewhat of an institutionalized behavior, something they've seen in their family, whether it be through their mother, their auntie, their uncle, someone in the family who has worked in the sex industry to gain money and has shown that child that they can make money by laying on their back, per se.
Wow.
Yes. So in this town, oftentimes what happens is the person will get a phone call. They'll post a phone number on there, and the young lady will come. If the young lady is a free agent, which is extremely dangerous because there's no protection whatsoever for that young lady when she goes on those calls, sometimes the girls will pair up, meaning that two girlfriends will go on the call. One will stay in the bathroom while the other one performs an act, and supposedly that's supposed to be safety or security for the two of them. Yet we know how violent offenders can be when they buy women. And basically, there's very low worth for a person who's selling themselves. Sadly, the offenders, the people who are using the young ladies and men, be aware, young boys and men are also selling themselves and being trafficked in sex trafficking. Yet they go into these environments, they go into the hotel rooms, they perform the sex acts. Hopefully they're able to get out of there without being strangled, stabbed, abused, because the person feels they've paid for them for that period of time, so they can do whatever they want to them during that period of time, up and to killing them, because we do lose quite a few of our sex trafficking victims to death, and oftentimes it's because no one considers them having any value. Now, let's say something like that does happen, then you have the predator pimp that comes in, and the predator pimp comes in and says, hey, listen, baby, I can take care of you. I can keep you safe. I can watch you. And they get it down to a science, and literally they do. There's a timing for the girls to get the call, the girls to arrive on the call. The pimp stands by on lookout to wherever they're going to. They double check and check out the person who's ordering the girl, because they want to make sure that that person is not in fact a cop, or somebody.
So they have their own little system going on, right?
There is a intricate syndicate. There's seriously a pimp syndicate throughout the nation where they know each other. And they do just like people out here that are professionals that are listening. You guys have an annual conference or something like that where you go to Florida one year and Atlanta another year. They do the same thing. These folks know each other and they teach each other. They teach the young ones, the young men and women are out here pimping people. They teach them how to control their victim, how to get their victim, how to use their victim.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, let me ask you this, Pastor Aaron. This question is for you. Uh-oh. We have the Floyd Mayweather fight.
Yes.
So it's going to be probably thousands, maybe even millions of people that's going to be here for that. Isn't this the good time, a prime time for anybody that's human trafficking, prostitution? Is this a time that this will take place?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And why? So what's about this event that will make them feel like this is a great opportunity to get their girls out there?
Well, just like the Super Bowl, it's a big event, and a lot of people, a lot of visitors. And so people will, pimps will be bringing in girls and trying to make a lot of money in in a few hours. And so, these big events draws and heightens sex trafficking in the city.
So you saying that like this event there will be certain people that will be here that will participate and buy these girls, and do you think that will happen here?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It does.
It will happen. It will happen this weekend. And the great thing is, because of all the great work of a lot of the organizations here in town, dear friend of ours in Free International with Mike Bartell, they're partnering up with the Nevada Child Seekers and Class Kids, and they're doing a week-long outreach to help reach and rescue some of these kids that will more than likely be here this weekend, being pimped out, being prostituted out. So they are organizing this whole outreach during this week in order to make a difference and rescue some of these kids. So I'm very, very happy to be a part of these things and highlight, what Free International and some of these groups are doing this weekend.
Yes.
Because this will draw many pimps. It'll draw many predators. It will draw girls that will come for this. And children will be trafficked this weekend. But the thing is to get involved is necessary of our community.
So let me ask you this. When we say girls, Is the human sex trafficking and child exploitation, is it discriminated against? Are there boys being taken too? Are there boys in this industry?
Yeah, just as I mentioned, yes, there are. Yeah, the young boys are attracted because people are attracted to young boys too. And as Pastor Aaron was saying, it's fueled by the pornography. So if they see a young child being sexually abused, whether it be boy or girl, there's as they say specifically, people who have their own taste, specific taste in sexual acts. So if a young boy...
Okay. Well, with that, we have a call. No, go ahead. We have a call. So we have, I believe, is it Mariko on the line? Mariko, are you there?
Hello?
Hi, Mariko.
Hey, how are you?
Hi, thank you for calling the Vanessa Jackson Show. What is your question and who is it for?
Well, I just now woke up and turned on the radio. Just now. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I can hardly hear you. Hold on. Hello?
Yes, Mariko, we're here.
Yeah, I just now woke up and turned on the radio and I heard what you guys were talking about. But I didn't understand sex trafficking then, because I thought sex trafficking was only the people who didn't want to do it, who didn't want to be solicited or didn't want to be prostitutes.
Well, that is a good question. Which one of you like to answer that question?
I can't hear you. And if I turn on my radio, you won't be able to hear me.
Okay. Well, we can hear you. We can hear you clear. I'm gonna have Miss Tamia Dow. She's the retired Metro detective, and she's gonna answer that question for you.
Okay.
Okay. Was it Mariko? Mariko. Hi, Mariko.
Yeah.
Thanks for calling in. I had mentioned briefly about the fact that people are learning this, and that many times they come from a system, meaning an institutionalization where their family members are doing this, so they believe that it is okay.
Right,
and its statistics have shown that 70% of people who are working in the sex injury industry were at some point sexually molested in their life, which has sexualized the child at an early age. And a lot of times when the traffickers bring in someone, they convince them that, these are the ones that you're saying that are doing it by choice. They convince them that, well, hey, you're already having sex. You have a boyfriend. You know, you've been sexual before. So why not make money doing it?
Right.
And the thing is, the sex traffickers look at issues in that person's life, in that child's life, that they can exploit. For example, low self-esteem, dysfunctional family situation, the fact that they're runaways. They look at how they can make this child feel, this young person. And actually, I'll continue to say child, because as I have described to you, is that from the sexual encounters that these people have when they're young is what makes them and forms them as an adult. So when they feel that feeling of a loss of self-worth as a child, it is so much easier for now a predator to come in and convince that person that they have no worth.
Yeah, in that order, they sort of never grow up, so you can call them a child.
Exactly.
Right, absolutely. So did that answer your question, Mariko?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. It's just that I've lived here for 15 years. I moved here from Southern California, where that type of thing was more of a myth than something that was really exposed on the streets. But when I got here, I saw women who enjoyed it, who didn't have pimps and who didn't have. But you pretty much summed it up to why.
Right. Some of them are free agents.
Right.
Basically. Right. Did you want to add anything to that, Pastor Aaron? You think Tamia did a good job?
You did a great job. Awesome
okay.
Job.
Well, Mariko, we definitely thank you for calling in today on the Vanessa Jackson Show, and thank you for your support and listening.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, what I have here is, on some research I did, it said according to the Polaris Project, that as many as 27 million people worldwide are currently victims. 1 million are sexually exploited children. And this business generates up to $32 billion a year in profits. And that here in Las Vegas Metro Police Department alone has recovered over 2,229 victims of sex trafficking since 1994. So does that sound about right?
That's correct. That is those are the statistics, yes, that the Southern Nevada Human Trafficking Task Force puts out.
Wow. This topic is, it just blows my mind that, so many people are doing that and it's right under our nose. Now, callers, if you're out there and you're listening, if you have anything you want to call in and ask, you can give us a call at 702-647-3688. So, Aaron, let me ask you, is it true that some of these human traffickers even brand their victims?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've heard stories in some of the events that we've done where the pimps have taken an iron to their girls, that they have taken, trying to think of how I could say it nicely, but have taken like a curling iron to private parts of their bodies, where the abuse is horrendous, where traffickers have abused these girls horrifically. And if I could add something, I want to kind of back up a little bit to address that $32 billion statement that you had from the Polaris Project. I had the opportunity of co-producing the documentary Traffic No More.
Amazing documentary.
Which is, trafficnomore.org. And that was highlighted at the Mayor's Faith Initiative
Absolutely.
Saturday. In producing that documentary, $32 billion industry is a big number. That's very hard to fathom.
It is.
It is second to only the drug trade. It is that high up. There are more boys and girls being sold in America, in the world, $32 billion. But in producing that documentary, we were in an interview with a professor at UNLV. And in their studies, do you know that they said that Las Vegas is responsible for about $2 billion? So one of the driving forces within me in challenging men to get victory over the area of pornography is the fact that we in this city alone can have a global economic impact in this industry if men would rise up and say, I'm not going to participate in this for the sake of my sons and my daughters.
And their daughters,
Absolutely.
Yes.
I've got 2 sons at home. And, and my main objective in life is to have a healthy home, a strong marriage first, so I can have a healthy home, so that my kids know what a father is to be. Am I perfect? No.
Great statement.
But the thing is that when men of Las Vegas, when men of this city will rise up and take a stand against what I believe is to be one of the major driving forces in pornography that fuels human trafficking, when we get a handle of that, we will make a global economic impact and drive down that number, so that just out of this city, it's amazing to think what the potential and the miracle that is within men of what we can produce in this.
Well, Pastor Aaron, you must have really hit something, because now we have another caller. We have Marlo on the line. Marlo, are you there?
Hi, yes, I'm here.
Hi, thank you for calling to the Vanessa Jackson Show. What is your question and where are you calling from?
I'm actually calling from Las Vegas.
Okay.
How are you guys doing?
Hi.
Hi, Marlo.
And what is your question?
Actually, I was just wondering, were you guys aware of when Mayor Oscar Goodman was trying to legalize it at one point? Oh, okay.
Okay.
You're asking us if we were aware at one point?
Yes, and how do you guys feel about it?
How long ago was that?
Like a couple of years ago. It was actually on the news.
That he was trying to legalize prostitution? Is that what it was? Because I do remember that. I do remember hearing that some years ago.
Well, there's a little bit of an argument and a concern. One of the things that I did want to speak about, and really when I mentioned the core of the fact that there is some abuse issues that are within the whole element of prostitution and the selling of yourself for sex. I believe what it was is people look at the fact that up north there's brothels and that people are able to go to brothels and get services at brothels. But what I think that people are missing, and my passion is for people to understand that child within that person who's being sold for prostitution. So what I believe has happened now is that just like Mayor Carolyn Goodman is aware of now more through education and awareness, which is what I'm very key on doing, Pastor Aaron is very key on doing, is to raise the awareness of the true face of sex trafficking and prostitution, that it is not as simple and harmless as it appears to be, because it affects not only the people who are out there doing it, but it affects those people who are also taking the services or using the services. It messes up homes. It breaks up families. There's just so many levels of how prostitution affects us. So going back to the original, I believe that's Oscar Goodman, you're saying, wanted it legalized, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, so now we have Carolyn Goodman in place with the Mayor's Faith Initiative, where we meet once a month to see how we can quelch the sex trafficking. You have a different, educated view now. So no, the legalization of prostitution in Las Vegas is not going to happen.
Did that answer your question, Marlo?
Yes, thank you.
Well, no, thank you. Thank you for calling in today, and we really appreciate your support.
All right, bye.
Thank you. So, Pastor Aaron, being that you are a pastor and minister in the industry and you've seen both sides, have you ever sat down with any of the men that have been former pimps or part of the human trafficking world, and what were some of the outcomes of that?
A few. Not as many as I would like to. When we were doing a lot of kids outreaches, and when we would do a lot of our children's programs, what we would do is try to, within those children, a lot of them would come up because of the influence of the home. A lot of these kids would want to say, I want to grow up, I want to be a pimp like my cousin. I want to grow up and be a pimp like my daddy, because I get the money, I get the girls, I get all this stuff. So whenever we saw that, our influence was try to bring education and awareness into the homes first. So now, over the years of doing some of the events we've had opportunities to sit with some former pimps. We've had other pastors that have been able to work with former pimps and get them out of that lifestyle. And so more and more, I believe if we can bring the information to the home, I believe that healing and freedom is going to begin in the home. Mm-hmm. And if we can really focus on there. So when I got involved in it, it was involved in the awareness aspect. And things over the last few years has really morphed in trying to really bring the health and the healing to men so that we're not going down a road that we know we are not supposed to be down.
Right.
I have never met a child yet that did not want to grow up, a young boy that did not want to grow up to be a superhero, or a young girl that did not want to grow up to be a princess or a ballerina.
Absolutely.
We are all designed and created by God for greatness. Mm-hmm. And you know what? That's why there's that DNA that we already have inside of us that is for greatness. And these young men and these young women know that God's destiny for their life is greatness. They're going to be great leaders, great fathers, great people in our society. And I think one of the things is how the enemy has robbed children is by presenting to them this false reality of how this is a glamorous lifestyle. And it's just not true. It's just not real.
And I agree with that, because it does start in the home, and people really don't get their children prepared for the world. I think that they baby them, they spoil them, and they don't tell them that this is a real world out here and the challenges that they will face, the fears that are out here, and that there are really a lot of predators. And for me, it scares me because I have children, and I'm afraid for them to even go outside alone, and because you're afraid if the neighbor is going to try to get them over to rub the pet or give them some candy, because these people are our neighbors.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, the other challenge we face is that we can't control the images that our children see. You think you can as a parent. You think you can limit access to the internet and limit these things, but you have to realize that the biggest influence in our children's lives are other children and media. And I had the opportunity to look at a video the other day, several videos, actually, the top 10, because I hadn't watched the top 10 in a long time. I'm usually a Christian music listener. And I said, let me see what the kids are listening to now or looking at, right? As soon as I watch the video, all I see is butts in the air, female, butts in the air, half-dressed, gold rings, bling bling, big money, and the men are towering over them. There's always usually like a strong male character in there, right? He's throwing money. He's all blinged up. He's, so now our children are looking at this, and it's like the girl's image is, well, I need to be up underneath a man. I need to dress like a hoochie. I'm just being real. I need to, do my nails and get this, and that's going to cost money. And that's a lot of way that the guys actually groom them, is that you'll have a pimp that'll come to the school or the mall or somewhere where he can find himself a young girl who's there walking around. She doesn't have any money. He knows she doesn't have any money, but he tells her she's pretty. He tells her he can change her life. He tells her, he finds out her family situation. Let's say she's with a single parent and she's just, she's not happy with her family life right now, and He seduces her, and he tells her he can give her all of this that she sees on TV, this that she sees her girlfriends showing on Facebook with their nails done and their weaves in and all this kind of stuff. And the young lady thinks, well, this should be easy.
But doesn't that come from a fact that some women are just weak-minded, or they've never been loved in a home, never had a father, and that sometimes they feel like they're irrelevant, that they're not good enough, that they're pathetic, they're ugly, they're alone? Aren't these the targets of these human sex traffickers and these pimps? Is these the kind of women that they look for?
Yes, they do. They actually they teach each other. The pimps teach another, like a younger pimp or whatever, what to look for, how to, just like predators, like an adult wolf is going to teach a baby wolf how to go hunt.
To go hunt, absolutely.
And that's exactly what a pimp does. A pimp teaches a young pimp that says he wants to be a pimp. It could be their uncle, their cousin, or just some friend on the street. Because remember, we used to be worried about kids wanting to grow up and be drug dealers. Remember when that was the big deal? Okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Now they're like, oh, pimp is a lot. It's better to be a pimp, right? Mm-hmm. And that's what they're following. So it's what they see and what they go after. But back to the girls, because the girls are my heart, okay? Because, my parents divorced, and I was 14 years old, and I know that if I wasn't blessed with the ability of, I was a good little church girl, actually, I was plugged in, but the fact that my mother spoke into my life every day, and even my father would tell me how I was, I was worthy and I was worth something, I was going to be something, and those words and that encouragement from my auntie, my cousins, everybody telling me, you're going to be somebody. If you don't hear those words, if you're always hearing that you're worthless, and this is to some parents out there, y'all need to listen to me. The way you talk to your children is so important. If you tell a child they're worthless, if you tell them if they're fat, they're ugly,
they're
whatever.
They're not going to be anything.
No,
Absolutely.
They're not going to be anything. Mm-hmm. These children take that to heart. And then you have some pimp that walks up to them, or even another girl, because girls can be pimps. Please hear me, folks. You have some other girl that comes up to them and goes, girl, you're beautiful. I can make you beautiful. I can help you make money, girl. This is easy. This is what's happening to our children today.
Right. Well, I think we know we're really getting some callers in. We have Ollie on the line. Ollie, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you so much for calling the Vanessa Jackson Show. Ollie, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Vegas.
You're from Vegas? All right. Well, thank you for calling in today. What is your question?
Well, I just wanted to comment, and I tuned in, so I hope I don't overshadow a question that you guys have already had. But I wanted to get your opinion on some people, kind of like the marijuana industry, think that you have a problem, it's a large problem, it's been around for a long time, and that if you legalize it, tax it, maintain it, put policy around it, that it's okay.
That it's okay, right.
Yeah, I want to know what your views are on that, on if they legalize it, maybe put an age limit on it, make sure there's not. If they really try to policy it, do you think that would have an effect? Do you think that would matter? Just trying to,
Pastor Aaron, would you like to take that question for Ollie?
Oh my goodness, that was an amazing question.
Very
Ollie.
great question.
Very, very good question. Thank you for that. I personally believe that if they legalize prostitution, it would do more damage to the individual and to the industry than it would. I think you've got your health issues. You've got so many issues to consider. But on for me, on the moral side, it would be just extremely damaging to the girls. I think that the legalization comes down to how can we bring more money into the city? How can we do things like that? And it's come on, this is about the family. This is about the men and the women. This is about the abuse. This is about the manipulation. This is about what really goes on to the individual. And that's where I am. It's just with the individual that they get, the lifestyle is so horrific and abusive. Mm-hmm. And, that's... And legalizing isn't going to do any good.
And I agree with you on that, because I feel that if it's legalized, then you're having girls drop out of school, because now they're thinking, oh, I can go over here and make $1,000 a night, versus I'm not going to go work at no McDonald's at 16 when I can go make $1,000 tonight, just for a little bit of work. I'm going to do it anyway, and I'm going to get paid for it. So I agree with that. Ollie, does that answer your question?
It definitely does. I appreciate it. I just felt that sometimes people need to hear that, because I think that that's something that people think, but they don't understand. It's about the morals, and we need to strengthen our family, household, in order to avoid a lot of problems that we have here. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much, Ollie, for calling. And so with that, when her saying that Pastor Aaron, I have a question for you. For the men that are out there listening right now that have daughters, what should they be telling their daughters or instilling in their daughters to keep them out of this industry so they're not weak and they don't fall victim to a predator or a sexual trafficker or a pimp?
Geez, where do we begin?
Yeah, exactly.
All right. My heart is for dads, okay? And dads, listen, we've got to have a safe environment for our kids. Like Tamia was talking about earlier, when there is the verbal stuff in the house, kids have got to know that they've got a safe place at home. They've got to know that they've got to have a safe parent to talk to when they are exposed and or being asked to perform in these things.
Absolutely.
I believe that if we can strengthen those homes to the point where the kids know that their first, safest, and first point of contact to talk to people is to the parents, without the parents reacting, in anger or getting so upset because this is going to happen, but the kids have got to have a safe place to their parents first. So my first encouragement would be for dads to create that environment, create that bridge that our kids can know that no matter what happens, what they're exposed to, that they have a safe place at home to talk to dad, talk to mom, and then they can take the appropriate steps from there. That would be my first one, is to encourage that. My second one for dads is to get involved. Get involved in some of these things because, when I got asked to get involved in 2009, I couldn't tell you what this stuff was.
Absolutely.
It's like you hear about it, and I think one of the other callers said, it's I've heard about it. It's there's a lot of awareness going on, but what really is it? Mm-hmm. And so I would encourage families attend. There's so many great organizations that got events going on that's just awareness and education. Get involved so that we know how this is working. How does Facebook recruit our girls?
Right.
If a girl is getting recruited on Facebook, what is she going to do with it? Do we have, simple steps that we could take in the home? Like one of the things is putting the computer in like the family room or something where the kids don't have the computer in the room where
I agree with that.
where they don't know
so
who
that
they're
it's monitored.
Yeah, so
Right.
there's monitoring, but they also have the understanding of why we're doing this. Okay, listen, son, listen, daughter. This is why we're going to put the computer in this room. It's not that we don't trust you. It's just that we can't trust what's going on in cyberspace.
That's right. Absolutely.
And so that's why we're doing this, and we're making these. And and they might. I remember a dad one time really got involved in her daughter's relationship because the boy was not good. The boyfriend was not good, and he was getting physically. He was verbally abusive, and started doing some of the things that were highlighting signs that this guy could be a potential pimp. It's going to hurt this daughter. So he stepped in, broke up that relationship, which was a good thing. The daughter was mad at him, but I said, the daughter might be mad, but she's at home,
Right.
Absolutely.
and she's safe, and
She'll
you know
be
where
thankful
she's
later.
at. And thank God that he had those things to recognize this is a potential danger, and this is not going to happen to my daughter. So I would encourage, the safe environment at home, the getting educated and know how this stuff works. I even heard not too long ago that it's 1 out of 7 boys now by the age of 9 are getting recruited on the internet. And so I don't know how all this stuff happens, of how these pedophiles and these guys are out there recruiting on the internet, but it's happening. And so it's being able to talk to our kids about it, being able to have that mutual understanding. I've heard of some groups that have contracts of understanding with their kids to say, we're going to create a little contract of understanding. We're going to have this so that we're going to have to do this on the internet. You're going to be able to go here. But if this happens or if you got a concern, you got to know that they can come and talk to the parents first.
Because that leads me to, because last Monday, our show was in regards to is social media and video games raising our children. So with me saying that, because I know if we're not involved and we're not checking what our children do, we'll never know if they've been soliciting. So my question to you, Tamia, is how do they recruit them on Facebook? Like, how do you even get to a child on Facebook?
Well, it was very interesting what you actually said about the girls at 17 dropping out of school, hearing about that they can make $1,000 laying on their back. Because that is actually this is why I have said a couple times here about the fact that girls can be recruiters also. Because basically what ends up happening is, so all our kids are into Facebook. They love Facebook, their Snapchat, their, WhatsApp, they're all these things where these kids are finding out what's going on with other kids all the time, okay? The reason I'm pointing on this is that it's not always these men lurking in the darkness that we think are recruiting our children. It is other kids that are recruiting are kids. And the reason I say that, on Facebook, I even asked one of the girls, because I do a lot of presentations at churches, and one of the girls pulled up her Facebook and showed me the pictures of another girl who had dropped out of school, because folks, in Nevada, we have the highest high school dropout rate in the country. Okay? Let that sink in for a minute. So we had Vanessa talking about the fact that a girl's dropping out of school because she knows she can make $1,000 on her back. Well, these kids were dropping out of school anyways, but now they know they can make this $1,000 on their back.
So why even go to school?
Why even go to school? And they see on Facebook these other young ladies showing, their bosoms all out and, the money in their hands, and they'll say, I did this last night. And they tell each other this, and if you're interested, hit me up on, private message, literally, and of course the kids are sitting there looking at that going, oh, I want to do that. Or they see a boy on there and he's got, he's living big, he's got the gold around his neck, he's not even supposed to be driving and he's pushing a Mercedes, and these kids do it, trust me, and I go back to the parents on that one. How do you have, I love what Pastor Aaron said, but how do you have your daughter walk in your house or your son walk in your house with a PlayStation or a Wii or, a purse, designer purse, or the hair
you didn't pay for it.
And you didn't pay for it. And
Absolutely.
you know that their girlfriend or boyfriend, if they're the same age as them, shouldn't be able to afford that kind of stuff. And you don't say something about that.
So aren't these red flags?
Those are huge red flags, folks. You pay attention to what your kids are doing. And let me tell you something. One lady had shared with me, well, I just don't give my child access to Facebook. Here's the reality, folks. All they got to do is go down the street and somebody else has got Facebook. One of their friends has got Facebook. That friend that comes up and smiles in your face and is the nice, kind, you say, I'm so glad my daughter's hanging out with Sally. She's the sweetest thing. Or I'm glad my son's hanging out with Bill because he's the nicest thing. They're going to smile in your face because they know they have to fool the parents. But then they take those girls. Remember the old thing where the girls would be all dressed nice and regular, right? And go down the street and change to the hoochie outfit, right?
Change clothes, absolutely.
This is still going on to this day. So parents, do not be fooled. You must follow your intuition. If you feel that something is going on with your child, believe that it is and be the parent and step in. I want to say one other thing. You guys are going over some topics I wanted to jump on. The thing about the fathers. That is so key. One thing I told you was my father told me I was special. I was precious. Even though my father was not with me in my teenage years, he still was. And when I say that's because my parents divorced, but he still was because I still heard the man in my life saying to me that I was precious and I was special. So I would encourage the men out there. There's a movie series that you can pick up. It's a video. It's called Courageous. And basically in that video, it talks about the men and how they treat, or it talks about a father and how he lifted his daughter up, told her how precious she was, pulled her away from a guy, like you said, stop that relationship. But there's contracts in that, like you were saying. There's contracts between the daughter and the father and the son and the father.
I love that.
You will respect a woman. This is how you treat a woman. This is how a woman should be treated. We don't teach that in the home anymore.
That's true. Well, it seems like we have a caller. Caller, Brenda?
Yes.
Hi, Brenda. Thank you for calling to the Vanessa Jackson Show. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from California.
Oh, well, thank you for calling in from California.
Welcome.
And what is your question?
Well, I didn't have a question. I actually had a comment.
Okay.
And I wanted to say that my child was raised in the church. My child was in the top 3% of the smartest children in the nation. My child did so good all through life. And when she became an adult, she was enticed by the same things that you're talking about. And in us trying to correct her or corral her back in, what she did, she left, and she goes from state to state to state. We never know where this child is going to end up from one state to the next.
So what is she doing when she's going state to state?
She is out in...
Is she a part of the world, the part of the prostitution?
A part of just what you're speaking of.
Wow, well, my heart goes out to you, Brenda.
I saw the movie Courageous, and it was wonderful. But the thing is it's hard to sleep at night. It's hard. It's hard to eat. It's hard to do anything. So what I did, I made a conscious decision to turn this baby over to God and said, Lord, this is what I need you to do. I need you to let the street just wear her out until she come running back with her hands up saying, what must I do to be saved? The only thing I want you to do is, just like you did Job, let the enemy have his way in her life, but don't let him touch her soul.
Amen.
And that's my prayer.
Thank you,
I don't
Brenda,
want her
for
to
that.
come back messed up in her mind.
Right.
I don't want her to come back beat up. I don't want her to come back so destroyed to the point that she's not good for society. But God, have your way in her life. And let the world just whoop her down and let her see, because they think it's glamorous.
They do, and it's the
so
money.
Beautiful. But if I could tell you some stories about her, because she had someone to stick their hand down her throat to try to rip her vocal cords out.
Wow.
Because she didn't want to do what they expected her to do.
Right.
So
Well, Brenda,
you have to,
let me do this for you. Why are you here? Because I can really feel it, that this is a very heartfelt story. Pastor Aaron, what can you say to Miss Brenda to just give her some words of encouragement?
Well, one, that you're not alone. Number two, we are going to pray with you. We are going to agree with you.
Yes.
You know what? And our prayer is that the reality, as we continue to ask the Lord to expose this as the evil it is, that our families will continue to get educated and that we will see an end to this. Brenda, I cannot tell you that you are my hero right now for being able to call in and share that story and the pain that you are walking through. You know, we are going to pray with you and agree with you that your daughter will come home. She will come home safe, and she will become one of the greatest voices, because as someone tried to reach down her throat and rip out those vocal cords, that we will agree that she will become one of the greatest voices in America that will stand against this.
Yes, we
and
receive
so,
that. That's right.
That's what I'm going to be praying.
Can I say one other thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Every time she called me, I record the conversation.
That's right.
I write down. I want every mother to know. I write down every phone number she called from, and I write the date. It's not listed by her name. It's listed by date, because she called from different numbers. So if anything ever come up, at least I know where to start backtracking from. So I record every conversation and every phone number.
Well, Brenda, we definitely thank you for sharing your story, and we all are praying for you that she gets home, unharmed. And, our hearts go out to you, so don't stop praying, because she needs you, and your prayers are going to be answered, and God hear you. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and calling in on the show today.
Thank you. God bless you.
God bless you.
Courageous is a wonderful movie.
I encourage everyone to watch it. Thank you, Brenda. And Brenda, I also feel that there's a reason you called in today. You need to be a voice. You need to be a voice for the families and the mothers that are suffering with the lost child that's out there.
Yeah.
So please figure out in your local church and your community how you can, in fact, be that, Brenda, because you didn't call here by accident.
That's right.
And like
Thank
Pastor
you.
Aaron said, you are not alone.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
God bless you too, Brenda. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Wow, amazing story. And she's not by herself. There's so many people out here that are going through that. Some people are afraid to talk about it. Isn't it that even some of your relatives, like, people have uncles and fathers, isn't some of these people some of these human traffickers too?
Do you know that 30%, I came across this statistic when I first got involved in this awareness in 2009, I came across this statistic that said 30% of our children domestically that get trafficked is done so by a family member. Mm-hmm. That's 30% of our children.
So right up under the mother's and father's nose, it could be their brother, their uncle,
their cousin,
anybody.
Yeah.
Well, the sad thing is they are in fact aware of it. That it's because that
you
was
think
why
they
I
know?
Said, yes, that's why I said the thing about the institutionalization. I don't know if you understand what I mean by that. It's kind of like if you live on welfare and your mother was on welfare, and people don't come up out of that because of the way that a lot of the minority communities are, where you don't try to think you're better than somebody.
Okay, keep going. Just keep going.
You don't want to try to think you're better than somebody, so they actually feel that they must continue in the same process. That's what I mean by institutionalization. It's even like people who end up going back and forth to prison, back and forth. They get out, they go back, they get out, they go back. It's what they see. It's what they learn. It's the culture of how they're raised and exposed. And as I described, is there can't be any realistic parent that's sitting there watching their kids roll in with $300, $400, $500 things and know they didn't pay for it, and not realize that their children are out there up to some kind of criminal activity. And yes, prostitution is criminal activity. Right. So selling of another person is criminal activity. I wanted to also address where she was talking about how the mind is messed up. And as Brenda was describing about her daughter, she was talking about what is called trauma bond. Now, she didn't mention a man being in her daughter's life, but she stated she's going from state to state to state to state. There's not too many women who will pick up and do that on their own. They're doing that under the control of someone else.
Right.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And when she said that her daughter had somebody reach down her throat, there's a process by which pimps and traffickers use to control their victims, and it is violence. And the thing we need to realize is that these victims of human trafficking are being physically abused daily. Just picture this. And those of you who are in regular, natural sexual relationships, you know that there can be some violence within that, even just by nature. Not on purpose, but just by nature. Now, think about someone who has to lay down with anywhere from 7 to 20 different individuals a day for no vacation breaks, you know what I'm saying? Continuously. Mm-hmm. Can you imagine the physical damage done to the body of a man or a boy, boy or a girl? They don't, they violate them in areas that are not supposed to be violated. They strangle them. There's just so much violence involved with this. So I just really want you to understand the picture, especially to those who are calling in here and saying that, oh, well, isn't it something they want to do? Think about that. Nobody wants to be abused like that. And it does mess with their mind. So we pray for a covering over their mind and full healing. And also for those people who are in it and getting and successfully getting out of the life, which there are so many in our group that we have here and Pastor Aaron and I are in, to turn around, reach out, pull back, help up those people who are in the life right now.
I wanted to go back. You used a very good word, institutionalized. And I wanted to go back to that statement that you made and ask you the question. I want to ask the whole panel this question. Okay, you have a kid that goes out and they come back with $1,000, a new purse, hair's done, nails done. And then you begin to see the parent, as you guys were speaking of a few moments ago, they begin to receive these gifts as well. That changes the outlook on how the parent is looking at what's being done.
Because the parent don't care anymore.
The parent doesn't care anymore because they're getting their nails done. If they're in that situation where they're not living a glamorous life themselves, and their kid has provided a road for them to do that, are they then considered this same situation? Are they liable? Or
that could be considered contributing to delinquency of a minor. Okay, because as long as that child is under the age of 18 and out there living off the earnings of a prostitute or out there prostituting, and their parents are aware of that, we as law enforcement can articulate that. Yes, that would be a crime.
I asked that question because I saw that happen as the drug trade moved into the 80s and 90s. A lot of people, were kind of giving the okay because they could live a better life. But then I saw laws come into place where if you're a part of that, then you go to jail as well. And
I get that because it's all about money.
Exactly.
It's all about money.
Exactly.
You have anything to add to that, Pastor Aaron?
Well, you know what? You said it so good. It's just the points that the parents could get to the place where they just don't care. I mean, that was the words that you said, was just that they just don't care. Because now all of a sudden they got money coming in and since when is money greater than life?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It's not in my book, but you know what I mean? It's just money. Money is not greater than life. And it's not greater than sacrificing our kids or our families for the fact that we can have nice hair.
Right, exactly.
That's true. So to prevent this, I think that as a community, as a whole, as a parent, that we need dedication, hard work, determination, and public awareness. Would you agree?
Yes, I think public awareness is key. I also would encourage our listeners to educate themselves because, of course, in 1 hour we can't fully educate you. I'm going to give you 2 websites that you could go to educate yourself. One is the Polaris Project. That's POLARIS project.org. That is a very, very full site of information that you could read the next 2 or 3 days on and get yourself educated on what is actually going on in the area of sex and human trafficking. Also, the other one is the Trafficked No More website.org. That was the one that came out of Nevada. It was part of Pastor Aaron's project, he and Pastor Troy Martinez. I would encourage you to also go to those websites. Find out about upcoming events that are coming on. You can check out my webpage for that. We are doing a bunch of community outreaches. We just did one this last weekend. Pastor Aaron has the Change the Demand, which he can talk about himself. Free International has one coming up. They're freeinternational.org. That's FREE International spelled out, correct?
Yes.
.org. They're also a local agency that works on here. And if you check out Vanessa's webpage, I'm sure she can give you some more links on where you can go to get better educated. I'll share those with her.
And being that we're almost out of time, I would like for you to, Pastor Aaron, if there is someone out there right now just needs someone to pray with them or talk to them, how can they contact you? And then to me, I'd like you to give them yours too, because you also a chaplain can pray for them. Can you give them your information, how they can contact you?
Oh, yeah. I'm at changethedemand.org. That's where we're at, changethedemand.org.
Changethedemand.org.
And on there is our video series as well, too, for men that just want to try to get a handle. See, one of the greatest things that keep men bound up in this is the isolation. And so the whole Change the Demand is about bringing men out of isolation into taking that one step into the light to deal with some of these things. I came across this statistic. Well, I don't know if it was a statistic. It was fun. But they said that 90% of men struggle with lust and the other 10% are just lying. So we just have an issue.
Yeah. Statistics, right.
We have an issue with men that's driving them to places they know that they're not supposed to be.
Right.
I could tell you about the work that we did undercover with the Reno Police Department that helped put together that documentary. And so I really believe that the men and the family is key. And so we got a lot of work to do. But I'd like to highlight, if it's okay, just super quick, Free International's outreach that they're doing this week for the fight this week. You can get more information at IamFree at freeinternational.org.
IamFreeInternational.org?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, IamFree at freeinternational.org. It's an amazing outreach training that they've got going on. I want to encourage people to get involved.
Okay. Well, we want to definitely thank all our listeners today. I hope you really enjoyed the topic, and I hope that this brought some enlightenment and awareness to you and your families to help us out. And I really challenge the men, as Pastor Aaron said, to stand up, be a part, take control, take ownership, and help stop this because, again, it does start with the men. And I want to say, Pastor Aaron, thank you so much for being on the Vanessa Jackson Show. Miss Tamia Dow, you guys are amazing. We appreciate you for everything you do. Well, that's our show for today. Again, thank you for the Vanessa Jackson Show.